I'm Barbara Boyd, and call me crazy, but what Donald Trump just did in 3 days in Asia can reverse 40 years of outsourcing and cultural decay. That's exactly why the usual media mouthpieces are either lying about this trip or refusing to cover it. The New York Times, for example, reduced yesterday's historic U.S.-Japan tech and energy cooperation deal to the headline, "Bonding over baseball and beef." Scroll over to social media and you have Tucker Carlson saying the real Trump story is neocons dragging us back into the same old wars, Ukraine, the Middle East, and the showdown with China. That's just nonsense. The truth is the Asia trip lays out a strategic shopping list to rebuild America's productive base, critical minerals processing, advanced manufacturing platforms, modern nuclear and fusion, grid hardening, and shipbuilding. That is now paired with a defense strategy that targets the homeland and the Western Hemisphere. That's revolutionary. How do I know this? I personally watched deindustrialization roll out step by step after 1971 when Nixon scrapped the Bretton Woods system. I have reported on these developments as they happened. Trump's trade agreements and new defense strategy are exactly what's needed to reverse that. So today I'm going to first show you the Asia deals Trump has already struck and why they invert the British looting model. Then I'll walk through the new Monroe Doctrine defense strategy. It resets U.S. foreign policy, crushes drug cartels, undercuts China's Latin American penetration, and creates the space to end the Ukraine war and cool the Middle East. But before we dig in, if you like our videos, please like and share this one. It increases our reach on YouTube. The president is in Korea today. If you look at the trade agreements he has inked in the Indo-Pacific so far, they all involve critical minerals and advanced manufacturing capabilities, which we presently lack. They all emphasize joint development of manufacturing and processing industries and modern power infrastructure in both countries simultaneously. When I read the agreement with Thailand, for example, one sentence stuck out to me. The agreement seeks to, quote, encourage investment that supports domestic value addition and processing industries rather than solely exporting raw materials. That is the opposite of British free trade policies. Free trade, as practiced by the City of London and Wall Street, involves looting critical raw materials out of a targeted country for the lowest price possible. Development of the host nation's labor force or productive facilities is strictly forbidden. You might recall that this British colonial policy was the trigger of our revolution. Take a look at this map of colonial Africa, for example. Do you notice how the railroads that were built do not link up? Instead, they run from the looting area to the port where ships will pick up the cargo for the trip to the mother country for processing. To emphasize the point, the rails are different gauges, so they can never link up without totally rebuilding the railroad. Trump has now signed trade agreements with Australia, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Vietnam, in addition to Thailand, in his first day. He spoke with Lula of Brazil on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Malaysia. It looks like Brazil will also be making a deal with the United States for rare earths. It has the second largest supply in the world. China, of course, comes first. Now, we used to lead the world in rare earth processing, but in the 1990s, that industry was killed off. This is an obvious national security vulnerability for the United States. The Chinese now completely control access. Rare earths aside, the agreements with Japan reached yesterday are stunning. They show you the future which can be built when two technologically advanced nations join hands rather than engaging in destructive trade practices. Japan is a leading world force in the development of fusion energy and advanced nuclear technology. They have agreed to invest both talent and money in the U.S. fusion and nuclear energy efforts, including the construction of modern nuclear plants and small nuclear reactors in conjunction with Westinghouse, GE Vernova, and Hitachi. The same Japanese investments are being made to build new power stations here, stabilize the electrical grid, and transmit energy. In addition, they will assist in rebuilding U.S. ship production. Similar agreements are expected with South Korea, which is also a technologically advanced nation. It is second in the world in shipbuilding technology to China and has offered to help rebuild our abandoned shipbuilding industry. So Trump has a shopping list. It's focused on getting the resources we presently lack in engineering, machine tools, advanced manufacturing platforms, and raw materials. He is using the shopping list to jumpstart our manufacturing and advanced technology base, which had all been outsourced to China. He meets with Xi Jinping tomorrow. They have been talking, and it's anticipated they will reach a deal which will cool tensions. It's also possible that they will discuss settling the Ukraine war. That discussion could create a joint focus on the real source of conflict in the world, namely the conflicts engineered by the City of London and its co-conspirator now in Brussels. If I just gave you a better understanding of Trump's tariffs policy, please subscribe to our newsletter. The link is in the description. We offer more in-depth and historical context supporting our analysis there. Now, concerning defense strategy. The defense strategy paper currently on Pete Hegseth's desk represents a complete shift in American foreign and defense policy. It puts the priority on the homeland and on the Western Hemisphere. It de-emphasizes Europe and de-emphasizes China. That's a huge change from all the policies we had for much of the last 40 years. All of those relics focused on Russia, the Middle East, and preparation for a war with China. Trump is focused instead on the domestic terrorists and criminals Joe Biden imported into the country and those financed by the funders of the Democratic Party. His policy for our hemisphere renews the Monroe Doctrine. He is conducting a military war on the drug cartels and narco states and narco cities in our country that have sprung up here while this country was occupied with wars in very faraway places. This policy shift, as I said before, does not envision a war with China. Rather, Trump seeks to rebuild the United States with the help of Asian allies and end China's big role in Latin America by offering those countries a better deal. So how does Europe's war with Russia in Ukraine and Israel's war in Gaza fit into this? Trump needs to solve the war in Ukraine in order to open the door to economic deals and cooperation with Russia, chiefly in developing the Arctic. It's clear that left to their own idiocy, Britain, France, and other EU globalists will get into World War III in Europe. The same can be said for the Middle East. Netanyahu and the Muslim Brotherhood, left to their own devices, will lead the world to the same place. People forget that Israel has the bomb, and so does Pakistan, which is a major supporter of the Palestinians. Trump meets with Prime Minister Orban of Hungary next week in Washington. Orban insists that the Budapest Peace Summit involving the United States, Ukraine, and Russia is delayed, but will still go forward. As importantly, he is working on now a bloc of all the EU countries who don't want to continue the Ukraine war. That's Hungary, Slovakia, and Czechia presently. So this Asia trip was hardly baseball and beef. It was a blueprint, fusion, modern nuclear, hardened grids, shipyards roaring back to life, and rare earth processed in friendly hands. That's how you end 40 years of managed decline and put America back in the business of building. The legacy press and disoriented pundits are selling you yesterday's fears. We are not sleepwalking into another forever war. We're walking eyes open into a Western Hemisphere revival with power to make us sovereign again. Homeland first, Hemisphere next. Peace through strength and production. That's the Trump doctrine, and we need your support to more effectively spread this truth and this channel's analysis throughout the country.